Welcome to Coffee Break. Thoughtful conversations for a busy world. Let's begin.
You know that feeling? It's maybe 4:00 p.m. on a Sunday.
Oh, I know it.
The sun is actually still out. The lighting is beautiful. Maybe you've had a perfectly nice weekend. You're sitting on the couch, maybe watching a game or reading a book. But then suddenly there's this distinct physical pit in your stomach. A shadow just creeps in.
Sunday scaries.
Exactly, the Sunday scaries. But it's more than just like a little bit of anxiety, right? It's the Monday morning dread.
Yes.
It's that physical resistance to getting out of bed like gravity has been turned up to 11 because you know exactly what the next 8, 10, 12 hours look like. It's that universal feeling of waking up to a routine that feels less like a career and more like a gentle, slow suffocation.
It's a very common visceral reaction. I think we need to validate that first. It's not just being lazy.
Right.
It's your body, your nervous system rejecting your environment. But what's fascinating to me, looking at the research we have for today's deep dive, is how we usually deal with it.
How we cope.
Yeah, how we cope. We complain about it. We make memes about it. We send those memes to our group chats. We bond with our friends over how much we want to quit. But statistically,
Nothing happens.
very few of us actually do anything about it.
And that is exactly where we are going today. We are looking at a stack of insights collectively titled The Blueprint for Professional Escape.
I like that title.
Me too. And I want to be clear right up front about what this deep dive is not. This isn't a discussion on quiet quitting. It isn't a therapy session where we just validate how annoying your boss is or talk about toxic workplace culture in the abstract.
Right, it's not about catharsis. It's about mechanics.
It is a strategic breakdown of why people get stuck, like really structurally stuck, and the actual unsexy logistical mechanics of getting out. We are moving from the sentiment of I hate this to the schematic of here's the exit plan.
The core premise here is actually quite confronting. This source material argues that most people hate their jobs, or at least strongly dislike them.
Which feels true.
But almost none of them ever make an actual plan. And there is a massive canyon, a Grand Canyon-sized gap between wanting to leave and planning to leave.
That distinction is huge, and I think we glaze over it. Wanting is an emotion.
Right.
Planning is a sequence of actions.
Precisely. Wanting is passive. You can want to leave your job for 10 years.
I know people who have.
We all do.
Yeah.
You can want it with every fiber of your being and never move an inch. Planning requires a completely different part of the brain. The blueprint we're looking at today targets a specific type of person. It's not necessarily for the fresh graduate who is just figuring things out.
Right.
It's for the working adult who feels trapped by 3 very specific walls: bills, routine, and the fear of uncertainty.
The trifecta of stuckness.
Yes, and the mission of this deep dive is to dismantle those walls, brick by brick. We want to move you from a state of passive unhappiness, which is where the majority of the workforce lives, to active strategy. We're going to look at why the dramatic exit, the whole Jerry Maguire moment, is a myth that actually hurts you, and we're going to replace it with this concept of calculated momentum.
I love that phrase, calculated momentum. It sounds intentional. It sounds safe, actually.
It is. It's the opposite of a panic move.
So let's unpack this. If the problem is that we don't have a plan, why don't we? Why do smart, capable people stay in situations that make them miserable for years or even decades?
Yeah.
The source starts with this concept of the trap, and specifically the difference between venting and changing.
This is where we have to talk about psychology before we talk about strategy, because the biggest barrier to leaving a bad job isn't usually the economy, and it isn't usually the job market, believe it or not.
Okay, what is it?
It's something the source calls the venting loop.
The venting loop. This hit me hard when I was reading through the material.
Me too.
Because we all do it. You call your partner on the drive home, you text your best friend, you grab a drink with a colleague at 5:30, and you just let it all out. You won't believe what Dave did in the meeting today. Can you believe this new policy? And it feels good.
It feels incredibly good, and that's the danger. That's the whole trap. The source argues that we often mistake complaining for doing something about the problem.
So it feels like action, but it's not.
It's the opposite of action. There's a biological mechanism at play here. When you vent, your brain releases a little bit of dopamine. You feel validated, you feel heard. The pressure in the boiler goes down just enough that you don't explode.
So because the pressure goes down, the urgency to act goes down.
Exactly. Think of it like a painkiller. Let's say you have a broken leg.
Okay.
That's your job situation.
Right.
It's structurally unsound. It hurts to walk on it. If you don't take a painkiller, the pain is so acute, so unbearable, that you are forced to go to the doctor immediately and get a cast.
You have to.
You have to fix the structure because the pain is intolerable.
The venting is the ibuprofen.
Venting is the ibuprofen. It dulls the pain just enough that you can keep walking on the broken leg. You hobble through another week, then another month, then another year. The venting pacifies the urge to escape. It makes the intolerable tolerable.
That is a terrifying thought, that our primary coping mechanism is actually the jailer.
It is.
It's the thing keeping us trapped. Because if we didn't vent, if we didn't have that release valve, we'd be so miserable, we'd be forced to act.
Correct. The source suggests that if you want to leave, you actually need to sit with the discomfort. You have to let the pressure build until it forces kinetic action. But venting isn't the only trap. We mentioned the 3 walls earlier.
Right. Bills, routine, and uncertainty.
We need to break these down because they are the structural barriers to exit. They're what the venting loop protects.
Let's start with bills. The financial fear. This is the big one, right?
Yeah.
I can't leave. I have a mortgage. I have car payments. I have kids.
It's the most logical barrier, the one that feels the most real. But often, it's also the most distorted. The trap here isn't just the reality of the bills. It's the binary belief that leaving requires immediate financial ruin. We tell ourselves a catastrophic story.
A worst-case scenario.
The absolute worst-case scenario. It's either this specific job that I hate, or I live in a cardboard box under a bridge.
We catastrophize. We ignore the massive middle ground between CEO and homeless.
Right. It's a total lack of imagination caused by fear. We'll get to the audit later, which addresses how to handle this with math, not emotion. But the psychological trap is believing that your current salary is the only way money can ever enter your life.
It's a dependency.
It creates a dependency that feels like survival. It's what we call golden handcuffs, but sometimes they aren't even gold.
Sometimes they're just rusty iron.
Exactly. But we're too scared to even try and pick the lock.
Okay, so that's the financial wall. A big one. What about routine? The source calls this hypnotic. That's a strong word.
It is, but it's accurate from a neuroscience perspective. The human brain is an energy conservation machine.
It's lazy.
It's not lazy. It's efficient. It loves patterns. A 9-to-5 routine, even a miserable one, is incredibly efficient for the brain.
How so?
You know the commute. You know where the coffee machine is. You know which emails to ignore. You know exactly how to navigate the politics. It requires very little cognitive load to just exist in that routine.
It's the zombie mode. You're on autopilot.
Exactly. And planning an exit, building a new life,
That takes a ton of energy.
that requires massive cognitive load. It requires creativity, strategy, fear management, networking. So at the end of a draining day, when your glucose levels are low and you're tired, your brain will always choose the path of least resistance,
Which is the routine.
which is the routine. The routine leaves you with no mental energy to plan your escape. It's a self-perpetuating cycle of exhaustion.
It's like gravity. Just pulls you down into the couch. And there's a third wall. Uncertainty. The devil you know versus the devil you don't.
Humans have a profound, deeply wired preference for a miserable known over a potentially better unknown.
This has to be evolutionary.
It is. If you're a caveman, the cave you're in might be damp and cold, but you know there aren't any bears in it. The cave across the valley might be amazing, but it might also have a family of bears.
So we're wired to avoid the bear.
We are wired to avoid risk. The what if of a new job, a new industry, or starting a business is terrifying. So we rationalize. We say, well, at least here I know the boss acts crazy on Tuesdays. Somewhere else, the boss might act crazy every day.
We gaslight ourselves into staying. We convince ourselves that the grass is probably brown everywhere else, so why bother moving? Why risk it?
Precisely. We build our own prison and then convince ourselves it's safe. So the source says we have to shift our fundamental orientation.
Okay. How?
We have to move from why is this happening to me, which is the victim mindset, the venting mindset, to what acts of ownership can I take?
Ownership. That's a buzzword we hear a lot in corporate America, usually used to get us to do more work for the same pay. But here it means something different.
It's the complete opposite, actually. This is the pivot point. Ownership, in this context, changes the dynamic completely. When you are a victim of your job, you are waiting to be saved.
Waiting for a hero.
You're waiting for the boss to get nicer, for the raise to magically appear, for the company to change its culture. You are passive. When you take ownership, you accept that no one is coming to save you.
That's a little scary.
It's terrifying, but it's also incredibly liberating. You are the architect. You are the one in control. And that realization is the only thing that generates momentum.
Momentum over complaints. I like that. So let's say the listener is nodding along. They realize they've been venting, not planning. They feel the walls closing in. How do we start dismantling them? The blueprint moves us into section 2, the audit.
The audit is where we stop dealing in feelings and start dealing in data.
Okay.
If you're taking over a failing company, the first thing you do is look at the books. You wouldn't just sit in the boardroom and cry about how bad things are. You'd look at the profit and loss statement.
Right, you get objective.
You get objective. You are the failing company in this analogy. You need to assess your reality, warts and all.
And the first part of this audit is the inventory of assets, specifically a skills assessment. But the source makes a really interesting distinction here between your job title and your skill set. Why is that distinction so important?
This is a critical error most people make. They confuse who they are with what their badge says. If you ask someone, what can you do? They usually say, I'm a senior marketing associate.
Which means nothing, really.
It's not a skill.
Right.
That is a label HR gave you to fit you into a salary band. It's a container.
Right. It's a box, but we need to look at what's inside the box.
Exactly. We need to dump out the container and see what's there. The exercise here is to break down what you actually do on a daily basis, granularly. Forget the title.
Okay, give me an example.
Do you mediate conflicts between the angry sales department and the frustrated engineering department? That isn't just being in meetings. That's high-level negotiation and conflict resolution.
I see.
Do you organize complex, multi-city travel logistics for executives with zero notice? That's not being an assistant. That's advanced operations management and crisis planning.
Okay.
Do you translate technical jargon from the product team into simple, compelling slide decks for the sales teams? That's technical communication and translation.
I see. So you're stripping away the corporate fluff to find the transferable value, because senior associate doesn't mean anything to a different industry, but crisis management absolutely does.
Transferable value is the key phrase. You feel trapped because you think your value is tied to this specific company, this specific boss, this specific proprietary software you use.
Right.
When you realize your skills are actually data synthesis, process optimization, and stakeholder management, suddenly you see that those skills have a market value outside of the building you're currently stuck in.
It's like you have a passport that can get you into other countries.
That's a great way to put it. You have to abstract your skills away from the context of your current employer.
It's empowering. You realize you have tools in your belt you didn't even know were there. Now let's look at the other side of the ledger, the financial reality check. We talked about the fear of bills. How does the audit address that without just telling people, stop buying lattes, because that's not helpful?
No, it's not. The source suggests shifting your view of finances from a monthly burden to a runway calculation.
A runway calculation.
Usually we look at our bank account and think, I need $4,000 a month to live. And we stop there. The audit asks you to look deeper. How much does it actually cost to survive?
The bare bones.
The bare bones. Not to thrive, not to maintain your current lifestyle perfectly, but to keep the lights on and food on the table. This is your survival number.
The survival number. That sounds grim, but I imagine it's actually lower than people think.
It almost always is.
Yeah.
But here is the kicker, and this is the part I love from the source. You have to subtract the misery tax.
The misery tax. Please explain this, because I think I pay this tax regularly.
Oh, we all do. The misery tax is the money you spend solely to comfort yourself because you hate your job.
Okay, examples.
It's the $20 salad you order for lunch via DoorDash because you were too depressed or exhausted the night before to pack a lunch.
Done that.
It's the extra drinks at happy hour to numb the stress from the day. It's the impulse purchases on Amazon at 11:00 p.m. because you feel like you deserve a treat for suffering through the day.
Wow.
It's the expensive vacation you book, not because you want to explore, but because you need to escape your life. All of that is the misery tax.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that adds up. I've definitely bought things just to feel a momentary hit of okayness after a bad meeting.
It adds up to thousands, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars a year. When you calculate your runway, how long you could survive without this specific job,
Yeah.
you have to realize that if you were miserable, your spending would likely go down.
Because you wouldn't be paying that tax.
You wouldn't need to buy back your happiness in these little expensive increments. If you loved your work, or at least had autonomy and respect, you might be perfectly happy with a sandwich from home.
That is a massive perspective shift. So we've audited our skills, we've audited our finances, and we've identified the misery tax. We have a clearer picture of reality. Now we need to build the way out. Section 3 is all about building the escape vehicle.
And this is where the rubber meets the road. The source is very specific here. The escape vehicle is almost always fueled by two things: side income and proof of concept.
Now, I can hear some listeners rolling their eyes. Oh, great, another hustle culture pitch?
Yeah.
I'm already tired. Now I have to drive an Uber. Now I have to start a dropshipping business. But the source is saying something different here, right? This isn't just about the cash.
It is absolutely not about the cash in the way you think. It is about psychological safety.
Okay.
That is the primary function of side income in this blueprint. It's not about getting rich. It's about breaking the spell of dependency.
Explain that. How does making an extra $500 a month, or even just $100, change your psychology so profoundly?
When 100% of your income comes from one employer, they own you.
They do?
They control your food, your shelter, your future. That creates a massive power imbalance that leads to fear, compliance, and that feeling of suffocation we talked about.
Yeah.
The moment you make $100, just $100 from a source that is not your employer, you break that spell.
You prove to yourself, I can generate value on my own.
Exactly. It flips a switch in your brain. You realize, I am not a dependent. I'm a generator. That psychological shift is worth way more than the money itself.
I see.
It gives you the confidence to negotiate for a raise, to set boundaries at your current job, or to plan your exit because you know you aren't helpless without them. You realize the market values you, not just your boss.
So it's proof of concept. You're proving to yourself that you are viable. The source gives a couple of models for this. One is the consultant model.
This is the easiest path for most professionals. You take one of those skills you identified in the audit. Let's say it's copywriting, project management, or even simple bookkeeping, and you sell it to one client.
Just one.
Just one. You don't need to start a massive agency. You don't need a website yet. You just need one person willing to pay you for that skill outside of your 9 to 5.
So if you're a graphic designer at an ad agency, you find one local business that needs a logo.
Exactly. And suddenly, you aren't just an employee, you're a business owner. Even if it's a tiny one-client business, you've changed your identity.
And the other model is the product model.
This is for people who want to start disconnecting their time from their money. It involves creating a small asset, a guide, a short ebook, a course, a spreadsheet template, maybe a physical product.
Something you make once and can sell many times.
Precisely. You put it out there to test market demand. Again, the goal isn't to become a millionaire overnight. It's to see if the market values what you have. It's an experiment.
You're a scientist in the lab of your own life. But here is where we have to address what the source calls the Jerry Maguire fallacy. It's very strong on this point.
The Jerry Maguire fallacy. Who doesn't love that scene?
It's a classic.
Tom Cruise, middle of the office, sweating, grabbing the goldfish, shouting, "Who's coming with me?" It's cinematic gold. It is absolutely terrible career advice.
We love the idea of the dramatic exit, though. The table flip, the I quit, screaming match. It feels like justice.
We crave it because it feels like a movie. It's a fantasy. But the source argues that the dramatic quit is actually a failure of planning.
A failure of planning.
Yes. If you explode and walk out with no plan, you have just jumped off a cliff without a parachute.
Yeah.
You might feel great for 10 minutes, that dopamine hit of righteousness, but then the gravity of bills and unemployment hits you like a ton of bricks.
And that desperation often leads you to just grab the next job that comes along, which is usually just as bad as the one you left. You jump from the frying pan into the fire because you have no leverage. You're desperate.
Precisely. You compromise because you have to. The blueprint advocates for small moves over dramatic ones. That calculated momentum again.
Give us examples of small moves, because when you're depressed and burned out from work, even small moves can feel heavy.
A small move is something you can do in 15 minutes that moves the needle but doesn't trigger your fight or flight response.
Okay. Like what?
Buying the domain name for your future portfolio site? That's a move. It costs $10.
Right.
Sending one email to a contact you haven't spoken to in a year just to say hello and reconnect? That's a move.
Yeah.
Setting up an LLC online? It takes an hour. Dedicating literally 1 hour on a Saturday morning to research other companies in your field.
It sounds almost too small to matter. Like, how does buying a domain name get me out of this soul-sucking job?
It matters because of compounding. And it matters because it's sustainable. If you try to build a whole new business working a second full-time job at night while hating your day job, you will burn out in 2 weeks. Guaranteed.
I've seen it happen.
But if you make one small move a week, or even one a day. Those compound. 6 months of small moves is a massive transformation. And because they are small, they fly under the radar. Your boss doesn't know. Your colleagues don't know. You aren't creating a crisis. You are quietly building a bridge, plank by plank.
I love that image of building a bridge while you're still walking on the old one. So we're making small moves, we're building a little side income for confidence. Now we need to organize this into an actual plan. Section 4 is the roadmap.
The roadmap is where we introduce the concept of time. The source has a great quote for this. A dream without a date is just a wish.
I've heard that.
It's so true. If you say, I want to leave someday, you will die at that desk. The blueprint demands a concrete timeline.
A hard date, like circling a day on the calendar.
Hard date. A real one. You have to reverse engineer the exit. Let's play this out. Let's say you decide, I'm leaving this job on September 1st. That is your freedom day.
Okay, September 1st. That's the target. Now what?
Now you work backward. If you leave September 1st, that means in August, you need to have your resignation letter drafted, your final projects at work wrapped up, and your finances topped off.
A month out. Okay.
By July, 3 months out, you need to be actively interviewing or have your side business ramped up to replace a significant chunk of your income.
Okay.
By June, you need to be warming up your network, letting key people know you're exploring options. By May, you need to have your portfolio or resume polished and ready to go. You see?
It turns a vague, overwhelming desire into a project plan.
Yes.
It's just project management applied to your life.
Exactly. And the psychological power of having a secret end date is incredible. The source notes that having a secret end date makes the current annoyance of the job bearable.
I can see that.
When your boss screams at you, or you have to sit through a pointless 3-hour meeting about synergy, you don't spiral into despair. You just look at your watch and think, I only have to do this 12 more times.
It becomes a countdown clock. It detaches you emotionally. You're like a spy passing through enemy territory. You know you're getting extracted soon.
Yes. You're undercover, you're playing a role. And that detachment actually makes you better at your job, ironically.
How so?
Because you stop reacting emotionally to everything. You stop taking it personally because you've already checked out mentally in a healthy, strategic way.
But here is the practical friction point: time. How do we find the time? This is the double life structure. We're working 9 to 5, we're tired, maybe we have kids or other responsibilities. How do we carve out this planning time without burning out?
The source is very pragmatic here. It doesn't sugarcoat it.
Good.
You have to steal the time. Not necessarily from your employer, though. Let's be honest. Most people aren't working 8 solid hours of deep work, but from the low-value parts of your life.
The doom scrolling, the Netflix binging, the Sunday brunch that lasts 4 hours and you didn't even want to go.
Right. The strategy is slowing down to speed up. You might have to say no to some social events for 3 months. You might have to wake up 45 minutes earlier. You have to ruthlessly prioritize. If the goal is escape, then escape is the priority.
Yeah.
Everything else is secondary.
For a limited time.
And remember, it's temporary. You aren't living this way forever. You are in a sprint phase to build your exit.
It's short-term sacrifice for long-term freedom. I think framing it as a sprint or a season helps a lot. It's not your new permanent reality. And that leads us perfectly into Section 5, ownership and avoiding cliches. The source is very specific about avoiding motivational fluff.
I appreciated this part so much. There is no follow your passion advice in this blueprint. The source argues that passion is a trap.
Really? Because that's usually the go-to advice. Find what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. It's on every coffee mug and inspirational poster.
And it's mostly nonsense. The problem is that people look for a job that fulfills their soul, some sort of cosmic calling. And when they don't find it, they feel broken. They think, what's wrong with me?
Right. Why don't I have a passion?
The pragmatic approach is to realize that for many people, the passion isn't the work itself. It's the autonomy. It's the freedom. It's the respect.
So you don't necessarily need to be passionate about selling widgets or consulting on logistics. You need to be passionate about owning your time, about not having a horrible boss.
Exactly. You can be passionate about the life the work affords you. You can be passionate about picking your kids up from school every day at 3. You can be passionate about not having a boss breathing down your neck. The work is just the vehicle for that life.
That's a huge relief.
If you wait for a calling to strike you like lightning, you'll be waiting forever. If you build a vehicle that gives you freedom, you can find your passion in the time you now own.
That is a relief, honestly. It lowers the bar in a good way. You don't need a spiritual awakening. You just need a business model.
Correct. And this ties into the mindset of the architect. This is the final and perhaps most important shift in the blueprint. It's about how you view your current job while you are still there.
We talked about this briefly, the idea of reframing the job so you don't go crazy while you're executing your plan.
Yes. Right now, most people view their job as a prison, a place they are forced to go every day. The blueprint suggests you reframe your employer as your angel investor.
I love this concept. Unpack it for us.
Think about it. You have a startup. Your startup is you, Inc., or your future business, or your career pivot. Every startup needs funding to get off the ground.
Right, they need seed capital.
Who is funding your startup right now?
My boss, the company I hate.
Exactly. They are paying you a salary. They are providing you with health insurance. They are, in effect, paying for the internet connection and the electricity you're using to plan your escape. They are giving you a seed round of capital every 2 weeks.
So my paycheck isn't a wage, it's a grant.
It's a grant to build your own future. When you view them as an investor, the relationship changes. You aren't a prisoner. You're using their resources to build your future.
It takes all the resentment out of it. It creates a professional distance.
Completely. When the investor asks for a report, you give them the report. You keep the investor happy so the checks keep clearing. But you know that the money isn't for them. It's for you to build your exit.
It's fuel.
It turns a toxic emotional relationship into a purely transactional one. And transactional is much, much less stressful.
I'm just keeping the investors happy so they'll fund my next move.
That is such a healthier way to get through a Tuesday meeting. It puts you back in the driver's seat. You are the CEO of your own life, managing a difficult investor.
And that is the definition of ownership. You aren't waiting to be fired or promoted. You are executing a strategy using available resources. So we've covered a lot of ground here. We've moved from the venting trap to the audit, to building the vehicle, setting the timeline, and shifting the mindset. Let's bring this home. What does this look like in practice? Let's summarize the key insights before we get to the action plan.
If you take nothing else away from this deep dive, remember this. Venting is a trap.
The painkiller.
It pacifies the urge to change. Planning is the only cure. You need to move from emotional reaction to strategic action.
And remember that small moves compound. You don't need to burn the building down today. You just need to lay one brick of the new building.
And timelines make it real. If it's not on the calendar, it's not happening. A dream with no date is a wish.
So for the listener who is ready to move, who is feeling that pressure building, let's give them the monthly action plan. The source outlines 3 concrete steps to take this month, not next year. Now?
Step 1 is a challenge, and it's a hard one. Stop venting.
Whoa.
For 30 days.
Cold turkey. That sounds impossible for some people. That's their entire social life with their coworkers.
Cold turkey. Go 30 days without complaining about your job to a colleague, your partner, your friends. If you feel the urge, write it down in a journal. Get it out of your system that way, but do not speak it into the air.
And what's the point of that again?
Watch what happens to your energy levels. Watch how the pressure builds. Use that pressure to drive action. Don't let the steam escape. Use it to turn the engine.
That is going to be tough, but I can see how effective it would be. Okay, what's step 2?
The audit. Sit down this weekend. Block out 2 hours. No phone, no distractions. Write down the top 3 skills you possess that are independent of your current employer, not your title. Your actual transferable skills. Prove to yourself that you have value that walks out the door with you every evening.
And the money part?
And do the math on your survival number. Figure out what it really costs to live and be honest about how much of your current spending is just that misery tax.
Okay, stop venting, do the audit. And step 3.
The micro step. Take one, just one, tangible action toward the exit.
Just one.
One thing. Update your LinkedIn profile. Contact a mentor you admire just to catch up. Open a separate savings account and name it Freedom Fund and put $50 in it. Just one thing that signals to your brain that the escape has begun.
I love the Freedom Fund idea. Even if it's small, it's so symbolic. It's a screw you fund.
It is. And money is psychological. Seeing that balance grow, even slowly, is seeing your freedom grow.
Yeah.
It makes the abstract concept of leaving tangible and real.
This has been incredibly clarifying. It takes this huge, emotional, heavy cloud of, I hate my job, and turns it into a checklist. It makes it manageable.
That's the goal. Complexity is the enemy of execution. Simplicity gets it done.
Before we sign off, is there one final thought you want to leave our listeners with? Something to chew on as they head into their week, maybe as they feel those Sunday scaries creeping in?
There is. It's a question the source poses near the end, and I think it's profound. I want you to ask yourself this question, honestly. If you knew for a fact, a 100% ironclad guarantee, that you would leave this job in exactly 6 months, how would your behavior, your stress levels, and your performance change today?
Ooh.
That's good.
Would you really care about that passive-aggressive email from accounting? Would you really lose sleep over that deadline that got moved up?
No, not at all.
Or would you just do the work, smile, collect your investors' checks, and focus on the future?
I think we all know the answer. We'd be lighter, we'd be happier, we'd probably even be better at our jobs because the fear would be gone.
Exactly. And the follow-up question is the most important one. Why aren't you acting that way now?
Because the only difference is the certainty. And you can create that certainty by making the plan.
Exactly. You have the power to create that reality for yourself. You just have to decide.
Powerful stuff. Listen, the door is unlocked. You just have to turn the handle, stop venting, start planning, and we will see you on the other side.
See you there.
Thanks for spending this time with us on Coffee Break. If this conversation stayed with you, you can find more episodes here on the channel. Until next time, take care.